Growing up orphaned, I was always enchanted by the idea of parents, their love, and the warmth of a family. This longing painted my dreams with hues of a home I never had. As I matured into adulthood, I found love and sealed it with marriage, embracing a new family that included my in-laws, Dorothy and George. They were kind and welcoming, a stark contrast to the cold void of my childhood. Our relationship flourished, and I felt a sense of belonging I had craved for years. Blessed with motherhood, my heart swelled with joy, cradling my baby, Tyler, in a home filled with love. It was a pinnacle of happiness, a serene chapter in my life where everything seemed perfect. However, the tranquility was short-lived, shattered by an unexpected storm. My husband, Michael, veered off our sacred path, entangled in an affair with Rachel, a revelation that pierced my heart with betrayal and disbelief. Confused and anguished, I turned to my in-laws for guidance, pouring out my sorrow and seeking solace in their wisdom. Dorothy and George, shocked yet supportive, proposed a course of action I hadn't anticipated. Their unexpected advice offered a glimmer of hope amidst the turmoil. The situation escalated when George passed away. Michael, devoid of any semblance of respect or loyalty, brazenly declared his intentions to bring Rachel into our home, demanding I leave with Dorothy. His words, cold and ruthless, were a stark departure from the man I once knew.
"I'm living with Rachel now. Take the old lady and get out,"
he exclaimed, a statement that echoed with callousness and cruelty. But we were prepared, our resolve fortified by righteousness and a plan meticulously crafted. Standing firm in the living room, I confronted him with unwavering confidence. "This is my house, you know?" My words, simple yet powerful, were a declaration of my unwillingness to be displaced from my own life. Facing a husband who had fallen from grace, it was clear that retribution was necessary. It was time for my counterattack, a journey of reclaiming my dignity and writing a new chapter of empowerment and resilience. My name is Susan, and I live in a cozy, sunlit home nestled in a quiet neighborhood with my husband Michael and our young son, Tyler. My early years were shadowed by the loss of my parents, leaving me in the nurturing care of my grandparents. This experience deeply rooted a yearning within me for parental warmth and guidance, a longing that has never fully faded. In this light, my in-laws, Dorothy and George, who reside just a short walk away, have blossomed into more than just extended family. They've become pillars of unwavering support and love, akin to a second set of parents whose presence enriches our lives. George has had a chronic illness for a long time, but he has never made a weak statement and is very dependable to me. Dorothy, with her ever-present smile and heart brimming with kindness, embodies the very essence of maternal grace. I've looked up to her since the day I became part of their family, seeing in her a model of the woman I strive to be. Marrying into this family, I've embraced them with all the love and respect one reserves for one's own parents, cherishing every moment spent in their company. Being blessed with Tyler has only deepened my understanding of the joys and trials of parenthood, filling my days with laughter, learning, and love. Yet, amidst this idyllic tapestry, there lies a single thread of discord: Michael's apparent indifference to the responsibilities that come with family life. His reluctance to engage in household chores or to actively participate in Tyler's upbringing often leaves me in a lurch, especially when our in-laws reach out for assistance.
"Susan, I'm counting on you."
He always says one word and runs away. When it was just the two of us as a couple, I found his such a young personality endearing, but now I am a little concerned. The other day, George had a bad back and Dorothy called me in a panic.
"Michael, can you please help take Dad to the hospital?"
I remember Dorothy asking with a tone of urgency in her voice, only to be met with Michael's habitual
"Sure."
quickly followed by,
"Susan, I'm counting on you."
as he sidestepped the responsibility, leaving me to handle the situation. It was very difficult to carry George to the hospital with me and Dorothy, but somehow we made it. Returning home, drained yet fulfilled, it was Tyler's innocent concern and unconditional love that soothed our weary spirits.
"Mom, Grandma, let me cheer you up,"
he'd say, his youthful innocence a balm to our souls. It's moments like these that highlight what Michael misses by standing on the sidelines: precious, fleeting moments of pure, unadulterated joy. George, ever thoughtful, proposed a takeout dinner to express his gratitude, a suggestion that, predictably, saw Michael eagerly participating.
"Take out for dinner, I'm in,"
he declared, his enthusiasm surfacing with the promise of a meal that required no effort on his part. At the splendid dinner hosted by the in-laws, when Michael finally showed up, George started the conversation with a gentle suggestion.
Michael, don't leave everything to Susan. Could you please help out a bit?
He proposed this advice in a soft tone, hoping to encourage his son to participate, but Michael's response was dismissive.
Look, I'm swamped with work. These household chores are supposed to be my wife's responsibility, aren't they?
Deep down, I wanted to say that I too was working and needed his assistance. However, it was clear that bringing this up would only sour Michael's mood, and we had already had this exchange numerous times before. Regardless of what the in-laws or I said, Michael continued to dodge these household responsibilities.
Thank you, Susan, for everything you do.
They would often say. Each time, it brought me closer to my in-laws, strengthening our bond further. Amidst these days, I stumbled upon a scene I could hardly believe. The day Dorothy asked me to run an errand, Michael, as usual, left it to me and went off. After delivering a package to her friend, as I was walking home hand in hand with Tyler.
Isn't that Dad?
Tyler pointed out in surprise. Sure enough, there was Michael in the distance. What? Next to Michael was a young woman I had never seen before. They walked closely together, seemingly enjoying a date. This was a place I seldom visited unless requested by my mother-in-law. I felt a chill of cold sweat all over my body. It must be a mistake. I reassured Tyler and hurried away from the scene. We caught a train, and I struggled for breath on the way home.
Mom, are you okay?
Encouraged by Tyler's kind voice, I managed a smile and finally reached our home, feeling utterly drained. I couldn't let Tyler see me in such a weakened state. Pretending to have a stomach upset, I secluded myself in the bathroom. My phone suddenly buzzed with an unexpected alert, drawing my immediate attention to its glowing screen. There, nestled among mundane notifications, was a message from my husband, Michael, which struck a chord of unease within me. He casually mentioned he'd be spending the night at a friend's house, his words a digital whisper of plans made without me. A silent accusation of liar echoed through my mind as I retreated to the sanctuary of the bathroom, allowing myself a moment of vulnerability to weep quietly, away from prying eyes and ears. Indeed, I was reminded that I had met many times in the past with similar events. Michael disappeared with his friends. In the early days of my son Tyler's life, I was so preoccupied with raising him that I didn't pay much attention to these matters. But maybe that night out was also an affair? The thought churned within me, casting shadows of doubt that darkened my mood, making the act of smiling feel like a Herculean effort. Amidst my turmoil, Tyler's voice broke through, laced with concern.
Are you okay? Is your stomach still hurting?
His innocence was a bittersweet reminder of the support I longed for, yet felt so distant. His suggestion to seek help from Daddy, the very source of my heartache, was a cruel irony that renewed my tears. Night fell, and with Tyler's gentle breaths as my only company, I found myself adrift in a sea of sorrow. Memories of Michael, hand in hand with a stranger, haunted me, each thought a wave crashing against my already fragile spirit. Yet, in the depths of despair, a flicker of hope persisted, the possibility that the woman was merely an acquaintance and that the real betrayal lay elsewhere. Clinging to this sliver of doubt, I yearned to hold on to my faith in Michael, to believe that our story wasn't defined by deceit. Driven by a mix of desperation and hope, I embarked on a quest for truth, enlisting the services of a detective to shadow Michael's every move. The financial strain was palpable, yet the cost paled in comparison to the weight of my suspicions. The investigation's outcome, a confirmation of my fears, was a harsh blow that left me reeling, struggling to navigate through the fog of betrayal that enveloped me. An invitation from my in-laws offered a brief escape from my inner turmoil. Yet, even as I crossed the threshold into their home, Michael's absence, off again with a friend's, served as a painful reminder of the chasm between us. My in-laws' alarmed expressions upon seeing me were a mirror reflecting the toll of my silent suffering.
Susan, what's wrong? You look terribly pale.
Their words cut through me, unearthing the realization of how deeply I had neglected my own well-being. Tyler's voice, tinged with worry, added,
Grandma, Mom has been feeling down lately.
His observation, simple yet profound, underscored the depth of my struggle, visible even to the young eyes of my son.
Is something the matter?
George, who usually keeps to himself, asked me with a look of concern that seemed out of character for him. He stared into my eyes, searching for the truth behind my troubled facade. I've always tried to shield Tyler and my in-laws from my own sorrows, bearing the weight silently. But in that moment, I knew I had to lay bare the turmoil that had been gnawing at me. I entrusted Tyler to Dorothy's care, feeling the weight of my next words. Here are the photographs obtained from the private investigator, I confessed, handing over the evidence of betrayal to George. He meticulously examined each photograph, his expression darkening with each one he viewed, signaling his heartache and disbelief. I had hoped to keep my faith in Michael, but now, it's beyond my capacity to forgive him. I managed to say, my voice choked with emotion, tears blurring my vision. After a somber pause, George expressed his heartfelt apologies, bowing deeply.
I am profoundly sorry for the distress you've endured, Susan.
In a reflex of consolation, I quickly reassured him, placing my hand on his shoulder. This isn't your fault, George. His next question caught me off guard.
Are you thinking of leaving him?
I realized then that hiding my true feelings from George was impossible. Yes, forgiving Michael seems like an insurmountable task, I admitted with a heavy heart. George let out a long sigh, locking eyes with me once again.
Susan, there's something I need to ask of you.
As time marched on, 6 months flew by. Michael continued his pattern of late nights, using work, business trips, and overnight stays at friends as his alibi. I watched him leave each time, my heart heavy, saying nothing. Meanwhile, George's health steadily declined, his condition becoming a silent testament to the growing distance between us. Even during these trying times, Michael remained absent, seldom visiting, leaving us to navigate the stormy waters of uncertainty and worry alone. When George's health took a turn for the worse, Tyler and I found refuge in the warmth of the family home. Dorothy, overwhelmed by anxiety and grief, struggled to find her footing. It became clear to me that now, more than ever, Michael should have been the anchor for his family, providing support and solace in their hour of need. Unable to tolerate Michael's attitude, I cut him off with this. Hey, Michael, now is the time to be by Dorothy's side. Michael responds with a dismissive grunt, clearly annoyed by the suggestion.
Aaron, it's no surprise George would pass away first with his chronic illness. Instead of dwelling on that, we should be preparing for the estate settlement.
Dorothy freezes at Michael's harsh words, while Tyler, sensing the tension, tightly grips Susan's hand in a silent plea for peace. Susan wonders how Michael could be so insensitive at such a moment. Wait. That's no way to speak. I couldn't take his tirade, so I said back. But Michael just smiled, as if he had been anticipating this confrontation.
Because I've been waiting for this day, believe it or not.
What do you mean by that? I demanded, glaring at him. Michael then unleashed all his pent-up grievances.
I detest complications, and yet with you all, it's always something. Listen to this, watch the kids grow, and at the end of it all, devote endless time to an elderly person whose time could come at any moment.
Dorothy realized that she was the target of the remarks and shuddered.
That's no way for an adult to act. You better brace yourself for what's to come after George is gone.
Ignoring the warning, Michael left there with a menacing tone, leaving everyone too stunned to respond. That night, George quietly passed away in heaven. The funeral arrangements fell entirely on Dorothy and me, with Michael absent, only to appear as the bereaved son during the ceremony. The funeral proceeded solemnly, with many attendees mourning George's departure. Afterwards, Dorothy and me, holding back tears, begin to sort through George's belongings, without any help from Michael, who has disappeared, presumably to entertain himself elsewhere. As the mourning period concluded and I decided to return to my apartment temporarily, a delivery arrived unexpectedly.
Package delivered,
Announces a voice at the door. Many cardboard boxes and large piles of furniture were stacked in front of the entrance. What on earth? To my surprise, when I looked at the addresses, the senders were all Michael. As Dorothy and I pondered what to do with the sudden influx of packages, Michael showed up, casually smiling as if oblivious to the turmoil his actions have caused.
It seems it has arrived.
Yet, the scene that unfolded before my eyes sent a chill down my spine, freezing my excitement in an instant. What in the world is this? My question, filled with confusion and disbelief, was met with Michael, my husband, who poised himself like an actor ready to deliver a pivotal line on stage.
Before that, let me introduce you to someone.
From behind Michael emerged a woman whose memory I could not erase from my mind, a reminder of a painful chapter in our lives.
This is Rachel, my girlfriend.
He announced, his words echoing in my ears like a dreadful revelation. Rachel, the other woman. The very person I had witnessed with my own eyes betraying our vows. Why? Why is she here? My voice trembled with emotion, barely concealing the turmoil within as I sought an explanation. Michael's response was even more heartless.
Actually, I've decided that Rachel and I will live here in this house. I'd like you and your mother to leave immediately.
Sorry, but living with a mother-in-law is just not going to work for me.
Rachel chimed in, her voice light and dismissive, her demeanor betraying her mid-20s. With flashy painted nails brought to her lips, she let out a chuckle, her laughter sounding disdainful in the tense silence. As my mother-in-law and I stood mute, Michael seemed to have an epiphany, retrieving an envelope from his bag with a triumphant gesture.
This is what you want, right?
He tossed the envelope towards me with indifference. Inside, I found a bundle of bills alongside divorce papers.
Here's your alimony and severance. This should satisfy you, right? Now, please sign the divorce papers and leave as soon as possible.
Taking a deep breath, I returned the envelope filled with money back to Michael. I'll grant you the divorce, but I don't need your money, I stated firmly, refusing his attempt to resolve the situation with cash.
Oh, don't try to act noble,
Michael retorted, with Rachel still smirking beside him, both seemingly amused by the situation. I had seen enough of their faces, their contempt only fueling my resolve. It was time they realized they were not the only players in this drama. Actually, I have no intention of leaving, I declared, standing my ground.
What? What is this woman talking about?
Rachel scoffed, her derision making the air even colder.
This is my house now, and if I tell you to leave, you have to leave.
Michael passionately voiced, his emotions riding the tumultuous waves of the heated argument that filled the room with a palpable tension. Yet, with a serene smile and a calm that belied the storm around me, I countered. But, let's not forget, at its core, this home belongs to me. Michael and Rachel, momentarily taken aback by my assertion, quickly masked their surprise with derisive laughter.
Have you lost your senses? You're merely the wife in this scenario. How could this place ever be considered yours?
They scoffed, their words dripping with condescension. Perhaps this will enlighten you. As I presented a document that held the weight of my truth. It was a family register, a tangible link to my undeniable connection to my father-in-law, George. You see, George saw fit to welcome me into the family not just in spirit, but legally as his daughter through adoption. I revealed, my voice a mixture of pride and solemnity. Michael's face registered shock, his eyes wide as he grappled with the reality unfolding before him.
What are you saying?
He gasped, his voice a cocktail of confusion and disbelief. Dorothy, who had been a silent observer until now, stepped forward, the sigh she released speaking volumes of the weary battles fought within these walls.
It was George's final wish. He believed in protecting his cherished daughter-in-law and grandson, placing his trust in them over a son he found wanting.
She explained, her words painting a picture of a man torn between duty and heart. When confronted with Michael's indiscretions, George had extended an olive branch to me, an offer that had initially left her reeling.
Would you honor us by becoming our true daughter, Susan?
He had asked, his request laying the foundation for a new chapter in their lives. Though surprised, Susan found herself enveloped in the warmth of Dorothy's endorsement of the proposal.
Susan and Tyler, you embody the essence of our family.
Dorothy affirmed, her words a balm to the frayed edges of their familial tapestry. Witnessing the tearful eyes of my in-laws, a resolve solidified within me. Yes, I am fully prepared, I confidently voiced, marking a pivotal moment of revelation and determination. The swift actions of my father-in-law were nothing short of decisive. He initiated the formal adoption process, integrating me into the family not just in spirit but in legal standing as well. Crafting a will that not only entrusted me with the familial home but also bequeathed the entirety of the estate to me. This gesture extended far beyond mere property. It was an endowment of trust and legacy. Your father was aware of your indiscretions. I confronted Michael, my gaze unwavering, as I handed him the will. It was his way of safeguarding me and our son, Tyler, from the fallout. Michael, hands quivering with a mixture of shock and disbelief, perused the document that symbolized his father's final wishes. Rachel, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, seized the will from Michael, her actions driven by a desperate need for validation, only to find herself overwhelmed and collapsing to the floor in despair. I offer you this money as a gesture of closure, I stated, presenting Michael with an envelope filled with cash, a tangible symbol of severance and finality. His reaction, however, was one of denial and rage. He tore the marriage certificate and will into pieces, a futile attempt to reject the reality before him.
This is meaningless,
he proclaimed, his voice echoing a blend of anger and denial. Yet, my response was measured, a calm assertion of the futility of his actions. The original is securely with our lawyer. Destruction of this copy changes nothing, I informed him, highlighting the irrevocability of the legal proceedings.
Cursed circumstances,
Michael muttered, his frustration manifesting in a physical outburst against the inanimate floor, a futile display of defiance. I've obtained the divorce papers, our business here is concluded. Would you mind leaving? I requested, the tone of finality in my voice mirroring the irrevocable end of our shared path. Michael's protest,
don't mock me,
was met with my firm stance. This house belongs to me, the daughter of this family. If I ask you to leave, you have no choice but to comply. Did you not once assert the same? My words, a mirror of his past assertions, left him with no rebuttal.
Wait. Are we being ousted because of her machinations?
Rachel's anger, initially directed at Michael, swiftly pivoted towards me. Her accusation,
You've ruined everything,
was not only unfounded but ironic, considering her role in the unraveling of our family. I've never been referred to as that woman by you, I retorted, maintaining my composure amidst her baseless accusations. As Michael's wife, you're perceived as the other woman. Prepare yourself, for I intend to pursue alimony, I calmly stated, introducing the reality of legal and financial repercussions. This revelation prompted Rachel to turn her frustration towards Michael, the true architect of our collective downfall.
Isn't this a breach of promise? You said I'd get the house and inheritance if I went along with this,
Rachel exclaimed, her voice laden with betrayal and anger. She had believed everything would go as planned, but reality had veered far from her expectations.
What? I have no clue what you're talking about. You're the one who cozied up to me on your own,
Michael retorted, his voice a mix of surprise and denial. He insisted he hadn't promised anything, completely rejecting Rachel's accusations. The two shamelessly hurled insults at each other in the doorway, the air around them thick with tension. Their words revealed deep-seated hatred and disappointment. I don't care which of you it is, but could you leave my house? I'll call the police if I have to, I said, maintaining a calm yet stern tone. It was clear they no longer belonged here. Standing firm, I glared at them both, my eyes reflecting my anger and resolve. Without another word, they left, their departure as abrupt as if they had lost their ability to speak. All that remained was a pile of luggage.
What should we do with this?
I asked my mother-in-law, knocking on a cardboard box. The question sought our approach to the lingering problem. Checking the garbage collection schedule on the fridge, she smiled.
Perfect timing. Tomorrow is bulk trash day.
Her voice carried a sense of ingenuity and positivity. We sorted through the luggage sent by Michael and Rachel, keeping what was necessary and bundling the rest as trash, to be discarded the next morning. This act symbolized cutting ties with them. Among the luggage were many of our belongings, the majority of items we should have brought from our apartment, thankfully brought by Michael, saving us a considerable amount in shipping costs. For this alone, I was grateful to Michael. I signed the divorce papers and submitted them to the city office, finalizing the divorce without fuss. Later, we called Michael, and in the presence of a lawyer, the will detailing the house and inheritance was read again. Michael looked downcast, barely listening, but according to my father-in-law's wishes, I inherited almost everything. As long as I live, I intend to protect this house and my mother-in-law. I'll formally demand alimony from you and that woman, I declared. Ironically, Michael ended up handing over a bundle of cash as severance, which effectively became the alimony. Rachel decided to have her parents rebuild her life, but this incident led to her being disowned by her family. After a major fallout, Michael and Rachel parted ways. Now, in an apartment devoid of luggage, leaving only memories, he lives a lonely life, unable to afford furniture or appliances. At least, I send over some guest futons from our overly stocked family home. He occasionally tries to reconnect through calls or messages, but I ignore them all. As for me, I've thrown myself into work and household duties, serving as the pillar of this home. Unlike with Michael, I now have the reliable support of my mother-in-law, Dorothy. Tyler's smile is invincible. As we set George's portrait in a place where it could be seen from the dining table, we marked the occasion with heartfelt celebration. Surrounded by the warmth of family, I voiced my deep gratitude, saying, "Becoming a part of this family has truly made me happy." Our family, now more united than ever, looks forward to creating many more delightful and heartwarming memories together. I deeply desire for our son, Tyler, to immerse himself in the warmth of our family's love. It's for this reason that we aim to live each day with gratitude, maintaining smiles on our faces to cultivate a life filled with joy and affection.